Thoughts are racing, spinning fast. Ideas flow but never last. Waves of wonder, thoughts untamed. Nothing ever stays the same. Rambling on, no straight lines. Welcome to my busy mind. Questions, answers, here they go. Digging deeper, let's start the show.
Welcome to Ramblings of a Busy Mind, episode 8, and my guest today is Tim Maile, and I would like to ask Tim to introduce himself, just because we're not that much acquainted, and I don't want to be the one telling wrong stories.
So my name's Tim. I run TKMP and IT Solutions, and I'm live in the UK.
You do IT solutions for others.
Yes.
And doing IT solutions usually is a busy job. And the expectation from others probably will put you into stress. Sorry for the clicking of my dog because it's just walking back and forth, chasing the cat. So you know burnout and stress firsthand. But you have an interesting story from your childhood, which we never have I have never talked about with anybody yet in the podcast, and I would like you to share a little bit about that, if you can, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So I grew up in a household where my father worked for a big corporate, big multinational corporate, and because of the stresses of work, companies were starting to say, right, you can work from home now. So the days of the 14.4K modems and they were saying, right, you can have a computer at home so you could get on with stuff, etc. in the evening. Well, he made the most of that, and as a result, he was, within the space of about a year, he was drinking, he was on medication to try and solve the problem of the drinking, and it was just left to it was never properly resolved. It was just go to the doctor, here's more tablets, etc. So I grew up in a household where as a teenager I was actually having to look after my father, or as best we could, or we were dealing with the alcohol when he was drunk, when he wasn't drunk, when he hadn't had anything to drink, including having a routine where it was, we quickly go and remove all the bottles from this cupboard where he thought he hid them, but everyone just to as a routine, basically, if people were coming round. So yeah. And that was me from about 13, 14 upwards.
Mm-hmm. So you said beginning of computers, so that would have been 80s, late 80s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Late 80s, early 90s. So yeah.
Yeah. For you as a child, having to deal with your father like that, if you look back at your life today, how were you coping?
I think as a child, I didn't really think anything of it. I just got on with it, because as a teenager, it was you're given the things you normally do. You're given a routine to do to try and help you grow up and things. So we just saw it as a normal thing. I think the coping mechanism for us was we were either at school, or even when I went to college, etc. It was, we weren't there all the time. We weren't around it all the time.
Mm.
But it's not really, if I'm honest, till we got older and I got to college and university that it kind of hit, because it was never it's been dealt with in theory, but how many times do you get someone clean over I'll say the space of about 15 years before you have to put your foot down and say, I can't do it? And that's when you're a grown up, you're an adult, you're with someone, you've got a family. And it's hasn't gone away.
So you said you're dealing with it in a way that you set clear boundaries towards your father. and limiting the access that he has to your family, or
Um,
making yourself like more scarce in regards of being with him?
it's more being more scarce of being around him, but knowing that there's things that one of the things that a psychiatrist said to him, kept emphasizing to him, was the word forgive and forget. So you go to your family, say, I'm sorry, get over it. Yeah, it's happened, but we'll move forward.
Mm-hmm.
How many times do you forgive and forget when, for example, you've been physically assaulted by that person, or you're constantly verbally abused by them? It just doesn't go away. So to this day, it's a case of he chose to take a back step in terms of his interaction with us. So I'm one of yeah, I've got brothers and sisters. He will make the effort with them, but he makes no effort with my wife and I. But then he wonders why he doesn't have contact with my son.
Mm.
Seems to think he can bypass us and go to him using everyone else. So it does make it very awkward if we're in earshot, or yeah, he tries getting hold of us all of a sudden.
How much stress does it put you in when you get into contact with him or get close to him?
Quite a bit, because there's things that he's the one thing that I would love him to actually do, which is something that I know a very expensive psychiatrist told him once, when a company he worked for went to help him out. So they pay for private treatment. So he went to a full rehab place basically for a few days. So Tim was apologise to your family, etc. Well, he's never properly done that. But the problem is, he also tries bypassing whatever makes out him look bad, and they say look forward. All right, so he's with someone else now. He's remarried, where my parents are divorced. But he makes all the effort in the world with with that person's family. And my sister's wedding, for example, he did this being a Father of the Year speech. And we're sat in this room and we can't believe, all honesty, what we're hearing. Because that's not what we get.
So he has a different perspective on how he sees the past than you see the past, right?
Yes, because he makes out he doesn't remember what he's done.
Yeah.
But if you mention certain little details, all of a sudden you can see something clicks in his brain, and he knows he knows he did it. He just doesn't want to bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't want to acknowledge it. He doesn't want to. He says things didn't happen when we've got evidence things did happen.
How has that influenced your life in regards to other relations, like not your father, but friends, family, strangers? How do you see yourself being influenced by that?
It does make me a little bit more cautious if someone, I'm out with, say, you go out with people and then they find they like to drink a lot.
Mm.
Because you get these situations, they go, well, why don't you? I go out somewhere, I'm not going to touch drink after drink after drink, because I've grown up with someone that's done that. So behind the scenes, it does make me a little bit, what's the word? I am cautious with people.
Mm. So
It
you don't.
is I don't believe what I see first of all in someone,
Yeah.
because I know to someone's face you can be like that, but then behind this door, closed doors, they can be completely different.
So he basically took away your trust into others.
In a way, yes. My caution level, if I don't know someone, is a lot higher than it normally is. But
And do you see your relation to your kid or kids? You have one or two?
one
One.
one son, yeah.
So do you see your relation to your son being influenced by what you went through with your father?
In a way, yes, because the promise I made. So when I met my wife, she helped get my dad, get him back, getting clean a couple of times as well. So she's seen it, she's been through that, and she was always cautious and she was worried that she said one thing I said was, I promise I won't become what, if I'm stressed, then that's my reason why I switch off completely. Or not switch off, I take time away. If I think I'm going to snap, I'll walk away from a situation because I don't want to become like him.
Yeah.
It's simple as that, really.
Yeah. How would you think your life would have been different if your father would not have been that way? Or how would it have been different if he wouldn't have worked from home? Do you think he would still have fallen into that trap of drinking, or would he have been fine with leaving job at home, at work, and home at home?
I think it definitely contributed towards it because that's when the pressure started to build from what he had left in the office at the end of doing a 9, 10, sometimes 11-hour day. But I think it's definitely added to it. But I think if things said, I mean, we all don't know how the future would have been different, but there was something that it definitely contributed towards, and I'll say it the way my parents being divorced, because there was a thing the psychiatrist said is once you get someone who's gone through alcoholism and they suddenly get themselves back to normal, and a psychiatrist said this, they will go and find and enjoy their life. In other words, they will go looking for if someone gives them another side, they'll go and enjoy it. In other words, cheating, for example. So, I don't know, can't say it wouldn't have happened, but it was something that psychiatrists predicted and just said in front of me and my mum.
So you went and got help. You went and seen a specialist or was it just because it was your father's therapist?
The psychiatrist, so when he was in rehab, he had one of the most very expensive rehab places, courtesy of the place he was employed by at the time. And this psychiatrist worked with the family as well as not just the person itself. So it's not. So they were very good at what they did, and that's why they had the reputation they did. One of the things that they said is, when it came to the family part of it, was keep an eye out, because I can tell you now at some point this 99.9 happens. They get themselves sorted out, but then they don't think about the aftermath, and you bring it up. So
yeah,
we were kind of warned in a way it was going to happen, but you don't like to think, it's never going to happen. You're in it, yeah.
So basically, he got better, but he left you guys behind.
In a way, yeah, that's how it feels.
Yeah.
As I said, he's moved on with those that will ignore the fact he's had these problems, or he's because of the drink, he's gone and threatened you, or other things have happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I said, that's why I said there's my brothers and sisters. He tries making an effort with them, but he chooses to make an effort with me when he has to.
Yeah. How is your mom dealing?
It's part of the reason she completely relocated moving to a different part of the country. Once she got everything finalised, she was able to, through the divorce and everything and all the legal stuff you have to deal with, it was a fresh start. So that's part of the reason she relocated to a different place altogether. Because every time things went wrong in his relationship, so he tried having after, going through that, he would always come running back to us to try and bail him out of trouble when he got kicked out because he might have hit the bottle again. So we basically had enough of it. I can't say any more than that, but having the police turn up on your doorstep saying, well, he's given us this address, and we go, yes, but he's not allowed here because he's done it in front of my son when he was 3 months old. And because of that, they have to then tell the social services side the child protection people. Even though we got we got him out as soon as. But long story short, things happened, and like I said, he's never acknowledged that. So that's, as I said, bring certain things up, and he will deny it happened.
If you were able to, or well, you are able to talk to your younger self, but what advice or what would be the thing that you would tell your younger self? Either to be aware of, or how to cope better, or
I would say when I was quite younger, I was always quite quiet. I didn't say what I thought all the time. I was the emotional punching bag, as some people describe it. I was the one that would take, even when I first started going into work, I learned to gain a voice where I would say what I think. Through what I'd done, through work really. And yeah, I would just say what you think, say what he's doing, and just stand up for you, kind of give someone a kick, as a very polite kick, then as it were, and just say, think what could happen if you don't have those people around you.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the things that we live through in our youth are what make part of us naturally, because you have all those emotions, all these experiences in you that you've been growing up with, and it takes quite a bit to take the emotion out of the situation. And that's part of the work that I do. And when I started my studies, there were so many things where I all of a sudden learned, okay, here's a major block for me, because this is what happened, what somebody said, and it was not in a mean way. It's just somebody said something that created a huge barrier for me energetically, so I couldn't move forward with what I wanted to do. And having gone through that and knowing that you can resolve those things, would you see points in your life right now where you would do something like that, where you would go for help and find somebody to take the emotions out of the situations and see what changes? Or do you say, I'm fine at the place where I'm at now, and I will stay like as it is right now?
Thinking back, there are times when, knowing what I know now, or knowing how the fact that I speak up, and that's part of the reason why we don't have, I'll say, any kind of a relationship really at all. Because I do now just say, look, I'm not going to stand for it. I'm not going to listen to the politics. You can't go switching from nice Jekyll and Hyde with one to the other. There are times in my past I've said I would have, wish I'd spoken up and said more what needed to be done before it got to the point it got to.
And do you do that now? Like when you look at customers, clients, anybody in your life that comes in that has expectations, or is of the opinion that they are owed more than they are, do you step up for yourself? Do you set the boundary and say, no, that's it, and stop?
It's part of the reason why I set boundaries from, I'll say, day one. And it's have a conversation. What do you think you're going to get? What would you want? What do you think you're going to get? What do you think you need? And then there's a black and white contract in front of them from day one. So if they try pushing and going, well, we want, I've got it. I don't need, if I have to speak up, can, but it's all in black and white. So I've got myself covered from they've signed it. They've signed what we agreed to at the time.
Is it still then preventing you from having how you say it? Missing the word. Not agreements, controversy and arguments. That's the word I'm looking for.
It doesn't always stop controversy and arguments, we'll say, but particularly when they start looking at what I call shiny new toys syndrome, like, oh, they got lovely things, but then sure, that's not better than, and we would love to then do this, this, and this, and they start talking about other projects, but then that's not covered in the initial thing. But it will never stop that. Let's be honest. But we, I do stand by it and say, but if you want that, that isn't covered in what you've currently got. So, like I said, I've learned to speak up now ahead of time rather than let people fall in that trap of, you can't expect me to do what should take 4 or 5 hours a day for something when you're paying for 1 hour a day.
And do you, as you apply that in your business life, do you apply the same principle in your private life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do say what I think. I've had step up in my private life where I've got relatives that are now, they need more medical help behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So age has basically kicked in where they're medically retired off, for example. So yeah, I've had to I do limit not limit what I do, but work around what they need as well. If that means someone needs a panic button, so if they have a fall, we've got it covered, but we get a phone call as well. I've done that. I've had to step in and do that already.
And
So yeah.
in personal conversations, how clear are you in your communication? You realize fast if it's going like that you're miscommunicating, or are you very clear that everybody gets it at the first, like second, third time at the most?
I'm I'm pretty clear that people get it on the first, second. Yeah, when we have the initial get to know someone conversation, because if I don't like the feel for it, or they start going in a transit going to a different junction for example, different way of thinking, my head's going, are they right for me? Are they only going to start doing that when I start doing stuff for them so many months down the line?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I might put an allowance for it in the agreement,
Yeah.
for
Oh,
example.
you say you have that in your mind, but is it also like a gut feeling, or is it totally your mind going, no, 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 stop?
Yes, it's more of a gut feeling now, because in my working life, I started out doing contracting where I was going in as the freelance agency contractor to fix a problem when it's already gone wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But a number of times it would be, 2 or 3 times they promise, they go, oh, we really love what you're doing. We want you as staff. We don't want you to go. Right. 3 months later, 4, 5, the next thing you know, there's a no zero clause, which says they don't have to give notice. They go, oh, we don't need you from next week, for example. This is on a Friday. So yeah, I have developed, we'll say, a gut feeling for when someone is in the politest way saying one thing, but talking. Yeah, they need me to do something, but they don't want me to just go.
Yeah.
But they know what they want to do. They've been talking about. They try not to give me the whole brutal honesty. So this is why 3 months notice, for example, is a mandatory part of anything that I do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's simple as that.
Yeah, I find communication takes a lot of stress. I like when you communicate right and when you understand the other person correctly, it takes a lot stress out of the situation, because you can actually react better or respond better. But the intuition part of gut feeling, and your gut feeling going like, no, that's not what I need to do, this is not the direction that helps me, is often for me a better indicator than my brain going, oh yeah. My brain might go, yeah, that's cool, let's do that, and my gut goes like, no, 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 don't.
Yeah, I'm very much a believer in what my gut's telling me over what people around you go, oh, you can trust these people. Honestly, they're the best people in the area. They've got a brilliant reputation. No, these are people that they know that haven't gone and let them down.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you get people where we've all worked for them face to face. They're brilliant at being as I call it, a politician. They can say what people want to hear. Behind the scenes, there are everything from rude, just pushy, their way or the highway. We have set hours. I've had managers message me at 5 o'clock in the evening after I've already started at 7 o'clock in the morning that day.
Mm.
So I'm on my way out going, no, I need this for a meeting at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock with the client next. But I'm finished for the, I think, and then it's expected as within it if you don't do it for them. So I do put my foot down and go, there is one of me. There is so many hours I can do before anyone's going to burn themselves out.
Yeah.
And if I feel myself getting remotely to the point I'm going to go for something to try and calm me down, we'll say, I will just stop. I will take, yes, I'll work weekends, but I'll make a point that there are there's a routine I have in the week with my family. For example, when my son has activities, he does. So it's being involved in that. I think so. Being involved in what he does on the Sunday, where he's with the choir activities he's in. So I do have a routine as well for family and bring that into it, and that means you get hold of me then. I'm not going to jump because you have your off time. Well, that's my off time.
Yeah, yeah. I know from myself, I get the point of this is important right now. That can be done once or twice maybe in a year, but not every single time. And I know there's people who are always like that, like last minute, go, 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 go. And I fell into that pitfall, or pit, however you want to call it, in that pit of, yes, I accommodate, and then it becomes a routine to be there always and do always. And then all of a sudden, when you say no, then they don't get it.
Yeah, I used to be the yes person, as they describe it, and it didn't get me anywhere. No. Yeah, people, I didn't get any promotion for it. I didn't get any credit for it. In fact, the manager that asked me to do the extra got the credit. And they're the ones, because they're the ones whose name's on the bit of paper or on the thing. And I'm saying, but I'm the one that's technically made this thing possible. So that's where I learned. I basically speak my mind and say, this isn't going to work in a meeting. For example, not in a rude way, but in the right way that I'm showing a degree of respect. But look, from a technical perspective, here's what's going to happen for it to work.
Yeah, I hear you. And that's boundaries. That is making sure that you're in a safe space and that nobody oversteps, which otherwise brings you into stress and burnout, because part of the burnout journey is not being validated for what you're doing, not being accredited, and having expectations put toward you that are not fulfillable from your side, or that that completely clash with what you're doing. So I get all of that. That's a big part in that. Yeah. So what is your future plan to keep yourself stress free and to implant that in your son, to have a good foundation of this is where it goes and this is where I have to pull the brakes?
In terms of for me, it's keeping the routine I've got. So my son has activities he's involved in. It's certain evenings in the week, and I'm not talking one, I'm talking 2 or 3 evenings a week. So I don't have to worry about him being sat in front of a screen 24/7, because he's got activities he does, i.e. martial arts, which takes a lot of, you've got to believe in it, but you've also got to have a lot of stick to it to get the most out of it over time. So that's helped him a lot, because it gets him out. He's physically working that, but also it's the working on your head, your mind, to control aggression. So it's right, I'm feeling stressed, and then there's things they teach them to I can't really name it, but with the techniques, or when they used to stand there, it's martial arts, they stand and they'll just look like they're doing a defense thing in their thin air. But there's, he's taught how to look after himself that way through that. But it's also having encouraging him to get involved in other things, because I mean, yesterday I went, first time in ages, I went to there was a new face-to-face networking thing in the evening. Best thing I did. Got me out. It was about an hour and a half away from home, and it was pretty much most of the evening. So got me out, but I was working, but it's just get to know people.
Yeah.
Yeah, de-stressing.
Networking socials are a good way to cope with and bring you forward. That's the same thing. You're working at the same time as you're getting to know people and finding maybe more different aspects of them that you can relate to, and that might make it easier to communicate, to connect to, and then to take out expectations or whatever that we usually have when we meet somebody. Did you ever share your story with your son, your childhood?
He does know what's happened, because it does keep appearing. It has appeared certainly more in the last couple of years, with a few family events going on. We've got something coming up this year, for example, which means we've got to be in range. Well, everyone's going to be in one room. Basically, those gatherings with everyone there, and I mean everyone. So he is aware of it, and the thing is, he does remember it. There's a phrase that when we showed him pictures of his family from, say, wedding albums, etc., he made a phrase when he saw my father, and even though he might have only been 1 or 2 years old, etc., at the time when it was really at its worst, he still made reference to something. But it was, if we said it in front of my father now, he said, I mean, my son sent a letter to him out the blue. Not, I didn't say, he just wanted, he's 12 years old, he's got a mind of his own. Said, right, Granddad, I'd just like to get to know you. I love you. Put his name on it. That triggered me to get accused of manipulating my son to send that by my father by text, by WhatsApp messages, etc. I had nothing to do with it. But, my son he's aware of it. He wants to get to know him, but he's cautious because he knows what's happened.
And your father is cautious because he fears something has been said.
Yeah, so he goes straight for the anger. All right, let's go. You're manipulating. No, I'm not. And then someone else says he's not, but then I haven't had an apology from him. But even though someone said, well, you need to apologise because you've assumed something, but yeah.
It's not an easy thing to deal with family that is I had an alcoholic stepmother, which was way later, like in my 30s. Still, it influenced somewhat the interactions in the family, and it's interesting to see when it happens at such an early age on how you deal and how you cope and how it goes through all your life and how it influences everything that happens. And I said my stories was just something that was said, and it was not even meant in a bad way or anything. Sometimes it was actually meant well, but it still stuck with me and created that barrier, and that barrier was leading to me to being stuck in that burnout for a long time, because I couldn't move out of it just because somebody said something to me that would make me wouldn't allow me to move forward. And it's interesting to see. I'm happy that you have your boundaries up and that you can deal with your clients in that way, because that's one of the big parts that we usually, when we don't learn to set up the boundaries correctly, or when we are taught not to set boundaries, that it's not okay to have boundaries, that in later years we will have the trouble of having that in all areas of our life, not just in one, right? And
when I started my own business, I was a bit more, we'll say, I didn't always put that, here's a black and white bit of paper, black and white boundary in place after I got made redundant. But I very quickly had a problem with one customer who started literally, it was right, here's what I've agreed to do. Basically, monitor what you do once a month, go and give it a bit of a housekeeping, and then that's it. I was getting phone calls every single day every time their staff did something that they shouldn't have done, when I wasn't allowed to put any, what's the word, admin controls on the machines. They were allowed to do what they want, when, how, and why. Go on their Facebook, their socials, their emails. I mean, yeah, it was just a free for all. But yeah, that after that, that had a contract on it, and because of that clause which said I can drop out with, I just said to them, I'm going to be black, and I did black and white as well. I said, right, I'm going to use my escape clause because I'm getting phone calls all the times a day, and it's a free for all situation. It's not. That's not what you're paying for.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're not paying for that amount of time. You're paying for me to go once a month.
I had that once that basically I was asked why I didn't think for a client. Like, I'm like, okay, you pay me for me delivering you your mail. That was the business side that I had. And I do that, but you have to read the letter. It's not just that I send it to you and tell you what to do. You're not paying me for that. You're not paying me enough for that. If we up it 5 times at least, then we might be able to do that, because then I take more chances on that. But if you just pay me or like hired me to be basically your mailing address and forward your mail to you, I'm not responsible for you not reading your mail. And that's typical. That's one of those typical things when you work with clients, when they don't, like, you have a written contract. You have very clearly told them, this is what you can give me more jobs. That's fine. You will pay for more. But this is the basic, and you didn't ask for more. If I offer you more, that's up to me. But that's not that it has to be all the time like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Tim, we're at the end of our time.
Yep.
I'm happy to have had you here. So thank you for coming.
Right,
and
thank you very much.
I hope you keep up your good routine of being with your child and taking the time out of work and making yourself a priority, or your family a priority. And if you're in the UK, you offer IT solutions for others.
Yeah.
I can add your LinkedIn and so on if you want me to. I will post it at the bottom of the video, and then if somebody wants to reach out, they can reach out to you and see if they connect.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.
Yeah, and yourself. Thank you.
Thoughts are racing, spinning fast. Ideas flow but never last. Waves of wonder, thoughts untamed. Nothing ever stays the same. Rambling on, no straight lines. Welcome to my busy mind. Ideas fade, all the shine. Oh, welcome to my busy mind. Questions, answers, here they go. Digging deep, let's start the show. Questions, answers, here they go.